Do you ever feel like the knife community gets ignored by knife manufacturers? T8 hardware, contoured titanium, hidden pocket clip screws, good cutting geometry. These are just a few of the things that we consistently ask for in the community, but rarely do we get all of them. Most of the time, we might be lucky to get one or two. But today we're going to get all of them because we're checking out a new knife from our friends over at Remette. Remette has sent over the RTB, and we're going to check it out.
This is Sparta!
Hey, how's it going, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in. And if you've been here before, smash the like button on the way in. I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And today, I'm excited to talk about another new release from our friends over at Remette. This is the Remette RTB, and that's B as in, bumblebee. And I'm actually excited about this one because they very quietly released what is quite possibly one of the more impressive knives this year. And from the outset, you might be looking at this and saying, well, it just looks like some steel and some titanium. What makes this so special? Guys, I'm going to talk about it today. And in the comments section down below, I want you to list out what are the things you look for in a premium knife. What's the checklist that you go over in your head when you start looking at a knife online and deciding whether or not it's going to end up in your collection? Because this one checks off a lot of boxes on my list. So you might be wondering, Rollshambo, what does it cost? What's it made out of? What are you talking about? Well, for starters, if you use my discount code, which I will put in the description down below, it's Rollshambo.edc, you can get this knife for around 170 bucks.
Nice.
Now, with that being said, this is really cool. We have an M390 blade with excellent cutting geometry. We've got contoured titanium handle scales, and the way that you can tell that handle scales are contoured and not slab style, just flip it up like this and take a look. This is nicely contoured right here. You can see because the handle scales go over in kind of a circle. There's some ellipsing going on right here. And the reason why contoured handle scales are preferred over slab style is that they're more comfortable. They naturally fit in the palm of your hand and you get better ergos all the way around. And for something that's a tool that you're going to be using, or in some cases just holding a whole lot, that's actually very much preferred. However, generally speaking, we only find contoured titanium handle scales on more expensive knives. To give you an idea of the contrast, here it is against some slab style handle scales. See the difference, how this one rounds over and how this one does not? Hopefully, if you're new to knife collecting, or if you just didn't understand what contouring was, now you know. The handle scales themselves are really nicely done. We have a 3D milled titanium pocket clip with a hidden clip screw. The screw is on the other side, so there's nothing interrupting that beautiful 3D milled titanium clip. We've got a 3D milled titanium backspacer as well with a hidden lanyard post. So for those of you who like your lanyards, there you go. And for those of you who don't, you don't have to worry about it. The locking mechanism is a frame lock. And if you look back in there, you'll see that it's locking up right around 30%. Which means that the blade is nice and tight. It's doing 25 to life, no issues. The action is very smooth. Of course, ceramic ball bearings, ceramic detent, and of course, a single-sided captive pivot. There is a lot to love about this knife, but my favorite part is the sub $200 price point. I think that honestly, that's a pretty fantastic price point for what you get. Overall length is going to be coming in right about 7 inches overall. And if you wanted to compare that against something like a Demko 80-20.5, here you go. And this is a good knife to compare against because a lot of people actually have this knife. So if you wanted to know what it looks like in comparison, there you go. It's not what I would consider to be a full-size knife, but I can in fact get a full 4-finger grip, no problem. The weight is about 3.3 ounces. Now we have 2 deployment options here. We've got this double-sided thumb stud, and then of course the flipper tab. And as far as that deployment is concerned, the detent is tuned more towards the thumb studs than it is the flipper tab, but both of them work pretty well. You can of course push button the flipper tab, you can reverse flick those thumb studs, no problem. And it's going to be something that is very enjoyable for a lot of people. Now, this is the RTB, and what is a B without a stinger? Check that out. Titanium toothpick, or at least they're calling it a titanium toothpick. I'm just going to call it a pick because honestly, you can use this for a lot more than scraping food out of your teeth. For example, the other day, I used it to undo a tricky knot in my shoes. It worked really well for that. And I think that you could find a lot of uses for this guy as well. But it got me thinking, what if they hadn't done a toothpick? What if they had done something like a T8 driver? Because, oh yeah, there is one size for the hardware. It's T8, baby, and it's only T8. T8 body screw. You got one screw on this side, and then you've got another screw on that side. And that's it. Those are the only body screws. You have 2 body screws total plus a single pivot. That's it. Guys, that's fantastic. The ergos in the hand feel great thanks to those contoured scales, and you do have a great choke up point here as well. And you might be thinking, Rollshambo, that's nice and everything, but I bet it doesn't cut that well. That looks like a thick, chonky boy. No, not really. Check this out. The cutting geometry is fantastic, and I did put it through some cardboard for your viewing pleasure. And what I noticed is that just like the other Remette knives, it glides pretty seamlessly through cardboard. No muss, no fuss. It did not actually get hung up anywhere. It was very slicey, and it stayed slicey all the way throughout. And for those of you who like a bit of color pop in your monotone carry, check that out. The pivot is in fact yellow and black, and I think it's safe to say that that is in fact a nod to its namesake, the bee, the bumblebee. I like the yellow and black there. It's just a nice bit of color pop there for you. Now, if you're wondering if I like absolutely everything about this knife, I would say that there's one thing I would change, and it's not something that I dislike, but I know that I'm going to get some comments in the comment section from people that say, well, that looks great, but I don't like speed holes. Guys, the aspirated scales don't bother me. I know that for some of you guys, you're like, oh, I just don't like the way that it looks. And you know what? That's fine. I totally understand. That's 100% a personal preference thing. For me, it doesn't bother me at all. I would have preferred if they had polished out the internal chamfering on those holes to give it some pop, or even done that and then anodized the internal chamfer with a yellow. I think that could have been cool as well. If they hadn't done that, this would be a little bit more heavy. So you could say that this is, a weight saving aspect, or you could just say that it's a design preference that some people will or will not like, and some people just won't care all the same. But for me, I'm really impressed because typically I don't necessarily see a whole lot of knives that check all the boxes for me, that have contoured titanium scales, that have T8 hardware all the way around, that have excellent cutting geometry, that have hidden pocket clip screws. For crying out loud, this knife is $176, and at that price range, you really don't see a whole lot of knives with titanium that's been contoured and premium steel like M390 and hidden pocket clip screws. There might be a few competitors out there that do that, but just take a look at your collection. I guarantee you that most of those titanium knives in that price range are going to be slab style and not in fact contoured. I really think that Remette has a winner in the RTB. I think that they did a really good job, and that quietly they released one of the best knives that we've seen this year, especially at that $170 price point. That is phenomenal, guys. I can tell you that normally I don't get everything on my checklist, and so it was really nice and refreshing to get a knife that in fact does check all those boxes for me. At the end of the day, only you can determine whether or not this is good enough to land a spot in your pocket or land a spot in your collection. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Do you think that this is an excellent iteration from Remette, or is this one a pass for you? If you liked the video so far and you haven't done so yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And by the way, if you want to watch more awesome knife and EDC content, go ahead and click on one of the videos that pops up next.